So if there are people in your life you don't feel good about, forgive them, love them, let them go. And know that you're doing this not because you have resentment towards them, but because you love yourself that much that you're not gonna tolerate anymore.
Hi again, Chriselle. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be here on another episode. Thank you so much, Mia, for having me.
Yeah, we got a lot of good insights from you. And at the same time, with our episode today, I'm sure it's just a continuation from what we've talked about before.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So without further ado, let's dive in. So for this episode, we will be talking about energy vampires. What is an energy vampire? What are the signs? What are the effects of energy vampires? And what are the examples if you're with an energy vampire? And how can you protect yourself from being one yourself? So the definition of an energy vampires are people who sometimes intentionally drain your emotional energy. They feed on your willingness to listen and care for them, leaving you exhausted and overwhelmed. From the same article, I just want to read off from this so that it can be, like, everyone can relate to what is an energy vampire is: 1, they don't take accountability. 2, they're always involved in some kind of drama. 3, they always one-up you. 4, they diminish your problems and play up their own. 5, they act like a martyr. 6, they use your good nature against you. 7, they use guilt trips or ultimatums. 8, they're codependent. 9, they criticize or bully. 10, they intimidate. Now, with this, can you share with us, Chriselle, your experiences in terms of being with an energy vampire?
Well, for one, I want to start off with I also used to be one of an energy vampire in the past, but grateful for self-awareness. It helped me discover that I don't want to be in that space. And at the same time, it allowed me to create actions to level up or to stop being in that space and to protect myself. So I think my experience with energy vampires began with my intuition. When I first meet a person, I don't judge, but I just sense kind of, is this energy genuine? Is this person really who they say they are? Or are they pretending to be someone? Are they sucking the life out of me? I feel like as a person, to those and everyone listening, you know that in yourself. You know the intuition that this person is giving off not so good vibes, not so good energy. And I think my lesson here is to trust it, to trust my intuition, to just, stay in my safe space and not open myself too much to these people because it's draining.
Yeah, I agree. With all of those things, which I've also learned from this article, that there are subtleties in terms of being an energy vampire, right? And I do also agree with what you said that I also was or used to be an energy vampire, which self-awareness really does play a role in that aspect, or the lack of self-awareness, because when you're really lacking self-awareness, you wouldn't know you have an effect on other people, right? Because honestly, we're all selfish beings. We're all out for what is best for us, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time, you also have to look out for other people, right? Being responsible for your actions on how it affects them. Because again, it also says here that energy vampires lack accountability. So in that aspect, I've also want to share my experiences in terms of energy vampires. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that when someone is an energy vampire, it immediately sheds a light on them that they're bad people. Because again, from the article, it's sometimes intentional or unintentional. Because again, the lack of self-awareness sometimes plays a role in that aspect. One of the things that I've realized was when or after I spent time with an energy vampire or someone that I consider like a good friend, I was really a people pleaser. And at the same time, I accepted the love that I thought that I deserved at that time due to my lack of self-awareness and lack of maturity in that stage of my life. you know, the situation where you're just bored at home and you want to go out, so you just ask random people who you want to go out with, who is
Yeah.
really willing to quote
Mm.
unquote spend time with you so that you won't feel bored at all.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, you would just feel like, it feels like I didn't accomplish anything. It feels like I feel more drained than when I just stayed at home and not be with this person. So again, I'm not bad mouthing the people that just do that. But at the end of the day, you really have to be intentional on how your energy flows. Well, the reason why I feel bored is because I'm not doing anything. So in that aspect, I also have to be responsible of the things that I do every single day. Like now, I remedy that with planning a day ahead or having a planner or having like certain things to do that leads me to a better path.
Another word that I want to put out there when we're talking about this topic is mindfulness. I think it's a very important thing for us and for everyone around us to be mindful of our energy. And, when you meet a person and spend time with this person, don't forget to check in with yourself. How do you feel around this person? Do you feel positive? Do you feel motivated, inspired? Or do you just feel like you're going with the flow, or, you're not really being who you are? You're being inauthentic. You're faking it. I think one of the things that helped me identify that I was an energy vampire was when I got the feedback that, why are you staying in that space? And sometimes you need people like that in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Those that are honest and that will really give us gut level honest feedback coming from love, because they know it's not us and they want us to change. So after that, I became aware and mindful of how I think, I react to people and situations and all that. And one thing that allowed me to let go of that energy vampire stage was really being mindful and aware that, is this really the energy that I want to give out? Is this really who I want to be? Because sometimes we tend to lean into people or situations to, get our energy up.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong about that. But again, for me, I think it's better to be the energy you want to attract. So if you want to attract joy, you want to attract love, be that first.
Agree. And in the article, it says that you have to establish boundaries. Like what you mentioned in the previous episode, boundaries are important. And at the same time, you have to adjust your expectations. Like, you can't have them always meeting your expectations, because at the end of the day, people will disappoint. We're all imperfect. We're all built differently. We're all flawed in that sense. And at the same time, it says here, guard your emotional capacity. Because like what you said, you really have to guard your energy. You really have to guard your mental and emotional capacity as to how long you will tolerate a certain thing or person. And lastly, in this article, it says that when worst comes to worst, cut them out entirely. If you keep on communicating, if you did your part, of course, you really have to do your part in communicating. Like, I don't appreciate this. I would appreciate if you would respect my boundaries. All the things that communication would, in a way, help, because it allows the other person to, in a way, adjust if they're willing to adjust. So at the end of it, if they're not cooperative, if they keep on disregarding your boundaries, disregarding your energy, disregarding a lot of things that you put out there, it's not bad to cut people off, especially if their energy or if their influence in your life is affecting you in a negative way.
I think also one point or one lesson that I've learned being surrounded with energy vampires in the past is I allowed them to be an energy vampire in my life. I mean, I used to not have boundaries like what I mentioned before. So, coming from a people-pleasing ego or attitude, I always want to show up for people, even if I don't feel like it, and when they suck out the energy out of me, I always think that, oh my gosh, this person, I just don't like this person and I'm blaming this person. But catching myself before in the past, I now understand that I allowed them to suck that energy out of me. And I think, I love what you said about boundaries. It's very important that you're clear with what your limit is. because if you're not clear with what your limit is, you're just gonna keep tolerating how other people treat you. And it's not okay, because
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna lead to a series of, belief systems that will shape the way you think and influence how you act in the future. So yeah, I think one important point as well here is to communicate it with people, especially if you feel like you really don't want to be surrounded by them. Then there's nothing wrong about telling them that you're not okay, or maybe you don't want to spend time with them, because our energy, our time, our effort is very precious, and it's high value. So if you spend this on people who are not really reciprocating that, then
Yeah.
I think it's not them to blame, but not really blaming, but also owning up that you allowed. Kasi, yeah, that's...
Yeah. And to add with what you said, I also realized that our energy comes from who we are as people. Like, there is a term if you're an extrovert or an introvert, right? So are you an extrovert or an introvert?
I'm an extrovert.
You're an extrovert. So where do you get your energy from as an extrovert?
Of course, it's gonna start with myself, but I always get hyped up when I spend time with other people. I think it's one of the things I learned growing up abroad and everything. Yeah. So.
I think it's a good thing that we're opposites, because I'm an introvert. So you're an extrovert, so you get to recharge your energy. Like, again, like what you emphasized, your energy always has to come from you. Like what you also shared with me, you meditate in the morning, right? You meditate, you do affirmations, you do everything to recharge in the morning. And then when you go out, at least you're able to share that energy with other people. Especially you're an extrovert, right?
Yes.
So in that aspect, for me as an introvert, it doesn't mean that when I'm an introvert, I don't like spending time with people, because I'm spending time with you right now. We're doing the podcast. I'm interviewing you, but it really does help when you recharge in the morning by yourself. Like, again, I also started doing like devotions, affirmations. It really does help, so that again, when I go out, I would share that energy with the people that I choose. I want to emphasize that I choose to be with. So in that aspect, as an introvert, I recharge by spending time alone, right? And after I recharge, I would like go out to social gatherings for like a day or for a night, depending on how I'm able to tolerate the night or the situation, because it really depends on the energy, whether I feel drained or I feel filled with energy. So at the end of the day, I'm an introvert. I have to have my own space. I have to have my own time to reflect. Because if I'm on the go all the time, I wouldn't have the time to like sit down and reflect. That would just burn me out. In that aspect, you really have to know whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? So that you would know where you get your energy from. And at the same time, you really have to learn how to protect that energy.
I love it. I love what you said about, recharging. It's very important for us to have a little moment for yourself every day. Spend time with yourself every day, at least for like 2 hours, just to, fill your own cup, because you don't want to give from an empty cup, diba? And that's one thing I've learned in the past, the hard way, to really put time, energy, and effort for myself first before I do it to other people. Because when I used to do that in the past, I'm not coming from abundance. I'm not coming from overflow. I'm coming from the need to prove that again, I'm here. I can be this person, all that. And that's something that I think most people can also feel. If you're coming from, genuine intention, energy, that you just want to spend time, love, serve, versus you pinipilit, or parang you're forcing yourself to be in that state, or to do what needs to be done.
In a way, you have to adjust your expectations, right? That's what you're trying to say.
True. And yeah, I think you also mentioned something about, being responsible for your own energy, your own space. And I think for me, it's really ringing a bell in my mind that you are responsible for whatever happens in your life. So if you are thinking about a person right now who's sucking your energy, then be mindful about it. Be mindful about what you have to do, what your thoughts are, where are you coming from, and more importantly, why you're allowing this person to suck that energy out of you. I think it all starts there.
you really have to also know what a healthy relationship is in order for you to know or to be aware of energy vampires, right? Because a relationship is based on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. I really do want to add to what you said about adjusting expectations, because again, everyone can disappoint you. Everyone, even your closest friends, even your closest family or relatives can disappoint you from time to time. I try my best to pick and choose the people that I want or I allow in my life that has access to me. Well, there are times where we have misunderstandings. There are times where we have difficult conversations, but that's the necessity of a relationship, right? You really have to know whether this person is out for your own good. Just to give you a scenario, there are other friends that I had that did not meet my expectations in some ways, but at the end of the day, I know where their heart is. I know where their motive is, right? So in that aspect, I know that they're not energy vampires because whenever I spend time with them, number one, I learn from them. Number two, I feel energized. Number three, I feel even more confident that yes, I'm in this relationship not because I can get something from them, but because I can have something to offer them that they also offer to me.
One thing that is also very important for us to do to maintain and protect our own energy and space is to do clearing every day. Clearing can look like in the form of physical clearing, clear your environment, make sure that there's no clutter around you because it has a reflection. I think one of the things I learned from my mom was she's always reminding me to make sure that my room is tidy because it kind of
it reflects your mental state, right?
So
agree.
That's one thing to clear off because it affects our energy. Of course, when you see clutter, do you feel happy? Of course not.
I feel frustration.
Yeah, exactly. Start with clearing your physical space, then your mental space. I don't know how you do this, but for me, I do meditation or journaling. So writing down whatever thoughts and emotions on a piece of paper is another form of energy that you're transferring from your mind to the paper. You're releasing it. Another clearing that I also do can also be in the form of digital. Unfollow people who are giving you the negative vibes on social media. Unfollow friends, unfriend friends, and be unapologetic about it because you're doing it for yourself. And that's what I've been doing also in the past few months already. So, when I see someone on my feed and I don't really recognize this person and I don't really like the energy that this person is giving, I just unfriend and unfollow without saying anything. I just do it unapologetically. No need to explain myself. Another form of clearing can also be emotionally. So, if you have to cry it out, go ahead. I don't know about you, Mia, but whenever I cry, I just feel happy afterwards, like relieved.
For me, I exercise. Whenever I feel frustrated, I exercise.
Exactly. Another way of releasing energy as well. Exercise can also be another effective way because sometimes we're unaware of how to release our energy. Sometimes it just bursts out of nowhere. But exercising every day, that's also a good practice. Another thing is people clearing. So if there are people in your life you don't feel good about, forgive them, love them, let them go. And know that you're doing this not because you have resentment towards them, but because you love yourself that much that you're not gonna tolerate anymore. And I think last clearing that I also want to emphasize on is financial clearing. So if there are people in your life that you have debts from or people who owe you money, settle that out and clear that out because again, it adds to another energy that is unfinished business or, there's kind of this energy that people feel, awkwardness. I don't know if somebody owes you money and you know that they know and they're not paying you. There's something and it just adds up to the energy. And I think every day do this as a practice, so that you come out 100% every day fulfilled, satisfied like that.
Yeah. I love also what you said. Everything that you shared, I love. Yeah, that's the only thing that I want to emphasize. I love what you said. So what you said about clearing people, especially from social media, I've also done a practice of having to not spend so much time on social media because it's not always like the people that you know, but sometimes since social media is really rampant or is very present in our life, in our day to day, especially when you work and you use social media as a platform, like to promote and whatnot. I'm also doing a practice where I veer away from social media, not because like, I want people to miss me, though that's just a bonus. But again, you really have to know where you get your energy from, and at the same time, what drains your energy in order for you to keep yourself from being an energy vampire yourself. It's not always about the other person, but you really have to be responsible for your own. If you have to be also self-aware and reflect, am I an energy vampire? Am I, like, in terms of social media, am I posting helpful things or valuable things, or am I just ranting? Am I posting something that is negative, that is adding to more negativity that is happening already in the world? Like, social media drains a lot from you. And at the same time, you don't get as much value, especially when you just scroll mindlessly. Well, you can get helpful advice and helpful information as you need to when you use social media. But if you use social media without any intention or without any awareness, you would just simply go into a rabbit hole of more and more and more, well, sorry for the term, nonsense. Like for me, whenever I go to TikTok, I just clicked it and not knowing what to expect. I just scroll and just wasted like an hour or 2 hours just mindlessly scrolling. And then at the end of it, I ask myself, what did I learn from it? What did I get from it? I didn't get any value from it. So why did I do that? So at the end of it, I also practice, like, do you know screen time?
Yeah,
So I apply that. Yeah, apply that in my phone. So that, for example, I put like a 5 minute or 10 minute timer as to how I'm gonna use my app. So when 5 minute or 10 minute is up, the app would automatically close. I wouldn't have access for it for the entire day, and then it will refresh the next day. So that's what I use, or I would just simply put everything in one folder, all of my social media accounts, and just put it someplace that I wouldn't normally go in my phone. So my phone is quite organized, but again, if it's not in your main homepage, right? Because everything in your main homepage, you're easily able to access. So make it more difficult for you to access all the things that are not helpful, right? Same as the energy vampires. You have to keep yourself away, or hard for you to be reached by the people that you don't want to be reached by, right? So it's not about it's not about being selfish. It's not about being rude. Of course, you also have to do your part in communicating, but it's a necessity for you to protect yourself, to put up boundaries, because at the end of the day, if you allow yourself to be drained, you wouldn't be able to give the value that you want in the world, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that you used social media as an example because it is real. It is true. Before I became aware of this, I could relate to what you were saying, scrolling down to TikTok mindlessly.
Yeah. It's
Not
all
knowing.
dances.
Yeah,
It's either dances or it only makes me
funny
hungry. Like there are a
videos.
lot of it's food.
Exactly. And I think for most people, they do that because subconsciously they're not aware, and that's their automatic thing to
Or that's
do.
their like me time or entertainment
Yeah,
somewhat.
yeah. I love that you also used screen time as an example because that's you protecting yourself from mindlessly scrolling through newsfeed. And I also use that app as well. Hindi pala siya app. It's not an app. I think I'm not
Feature.
sure if Android has this, but I think for
Yeah,
iPhone,
Android
yeah.
has. I'm Android.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
feature on the phone. Yeah.
better. So explore that as well. And I also want to touch around what you mentioned about social media, because I think huge factor as to why some people are not in a good place mentally is because of the energy they're getting from social media. And I used to be in that space. I used to have people who rant mindlessly and endlessly on social media. And when you open that, you kind of read it and you get the energy from it, and you're just, I don't
Energy
feel good about
vampire
this.
alert.
Exactly. And what I did is to really, even if it was my relative, I had to unfriend. I'm sorry, but I'm doing this for myself. And also, one thing that I also learned recently is to be mindful of how I spend my mornings. So some people, like me, I used to scroll as soon as I wake up and hear my alarm. And, when you open your phone, you read the news, a bad news or something, and it just gets you for the whole day. And I think it's important to start with yourself first every morning. Don't go to social media and scroll. Don't read the latest email. Don't read the text message. Just spend time with yourself. And I do this through meditation.
Yeah.
And
at the same time, if someone contacts you, right, you don't have to reply right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most people, like me in the past,
People pleaser.
I have the fear of missing out. So I
Yes.
also,
FOMO.
show up no matter what happens. But I think it's draining more than it should be recharging. And also, I want to touch on this point from my mentor as well, Coach Ross. He said that there are two kinds of people in this world. There are takers and there are givers. So be aware of who you are and who you spend time with. Because if you are spending time with 5 givers, then most likely you'll also be encouraged to give, right? But if you're spending time with people who are takers, I don't think it's possible to come from overflow and to give. Because, that's the space that you're in. So be aware of yourself, of how you're allowing access to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's still you.
Yeah.
It's still you. You're the most important person in the world, ever. So, yeah.
What you said about there are 2 types of people, I also thought of there are problem givers and problem solvers. In a way, you also have to not just give out problems, but at the same time, you really have to know how to solve them. Not per se that you have all the answers, but at least you know how to, in a way, work on solving it. Right? Same as self-improving on the things that you currently are working on. Because again, I really do want to emphasize that if you are aware or if you became aware that you're an energy vampire, please do not feel bad. Because at the end of the day, we are all a work in progress. We are all here on earth. We're really imperfect. We are all flawed. It's just a matter of, are you willing to improve on it? Are you seeing it not as an excuse, but rather a reason for you to be better, a reason for you to improve on it. And at the same time, when you improve on it, share your knowledge to those who need that knowledge. Because again, like you mentioned, there are 2 types of people. There are takers and givers. So make the world a better place. Give as much value as you can. That would help someone else. Whenever we give out something, make sure that you also know if this thing that I'm gonna share, will this help out this person specifically? Because sometimes we just give and give and give and we think this will help someone else. But at the end of the day, it might not be the need that they're looking for at that very specific moment, right? So we really have to also be aware of that. But again, it takes time. It's a process, right? It's not, we don't want to force everyone in the podcast to do something because we said it. Because again, Chriselle and I were imperfect. We are a work in progress. The reason why we're doing this is to give out value. Try to work on yourself every single day. And I encourage you to work on yourself every single day.
I want to give out an example of a giver versus a taker. So givers are those who are not thinking about themselves only or living life based on what they want only. For example, Mia, I can consider her as a giver because she's doing this podcast and she's doing this not gaining anything from it, but she just wants to add value. Another example is for students like me. I got this from also my mentor because he says gut level honest feedback all the time. So, for example, when you're in a Zoom meeting and it's supposed to be interactive, your camera should be on. If there's a question from a host, you're supposed to be answering, or maybe just typing in the chat box. If you are a giver, that's what you're supposed to do. Interact with people, go full out, open cam. But if you are a taker, you're just there silently, off cam, not speaking. That's an example of a taker. Another could be at home when you know that you could contribute in chores or
not doing any chores.
Yeah, that's taking. You're just taking whatever there is. But when you come from a giving space, how can I serve? That's always the question.
Okay, yeah,
regardless of who, where, and what you're doing, how can I serve? That's how you know that you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said. Again, emphasize on I love what you said. I can relate to what you said, especially everything that you do every single day, it starts from the home. It starts from where you are. right? Because when the pandemic happened, you're all like at home, you don't know what to do. So it was the first time that everyone just was in their house for a very long time. And that's when I realized that I was started helping out with the dishes. I started helping out with cleaning the house, doing the laundry. And it reached a point where I got tired of it. Like, why am I doing this? It is so mundane, right? So that really comes from a very prideful and selfish part of me, which am very much improving on. But at the end of the day, what my mentor also told me, she told me that wherever you are, serve. Because you might not know how it would affect other people in the smallest ways possible. Like, even when you say it's small, you shouldn't belittle what you're doing, because in that aspect, like doing the laundry, washing the dishes, it taught me life lessons, honestly. It taught me life lessons that I wouldn't know if I had not done them. Like up until now, I still do the dishes, I still do the laundry. Do I enjoy doing it? No. But do I have to do it? Yes. And am I serving people? Yes. So in that aspect, you really have to know if it brings benefit to other people or not. So the only thing that I really wanna point out here is that serve wherever you are. Even if you think it's small, it's not. It has an impact. Even if it's just one person. One person is still alive. You shouldn't belittle what you're capable of, because big things start from small things. Like an energy vampire, you wouldn't know someone is an energy vampire not unless you spend enough time with them. If someone is willing to change, then yeah, be there to support for as long as it's helpful for you as well. It's not just always the other person, but if it's also helpful for you, not because you're thinking of only yourself, but rather you're also out for the good of other people. Just to also add with what you said about feedback, like we both shared about the feedback that we got from our mentors, right? So in that aspect, I think the most effective feedback is one that is in a way solicited. Like for me, whenever, I'm not sure if it's just me, but sometimes I consider someone as an energy vampire, especially when they don't listen. Like they just listen to respond, not to understand. So sometimes a feedback is not helpful, especially when it's not solicited. Like I had my fair share of giving unsolicited advice, which I'm improving on. And what I learned from that is you have to ask permission from the other person sharing, especially if what they're sharing is something that is very sensitive, if they're in a vulnerable state. Again, I've learned it the hard way that you really have to ask. Do your part in asking. That do not take for granted the relationship. Like every relationship that I have now, even the closest ones, I ask them two questions. That the first one is, are you looking for just a listening ear? Because I'm here to listen. Or number two, are you open for suggestions? Are you open for my opinion? Are you open for what I have to say in what you've shared? Right? So yeah, you really have to look out for people in the most, sensitive of ways that you can. You really have to ask. You have to communicate to know what they need at the moment.
I love what you said about asking for permission, because that's also what my mentor taught us, to always ask for permission before giving it. Because if you just give it freely, people won't listen.
Sometimes they would be offended and they feel judged. Yeah.
Exactly. So the way we do this in our space is we always ask, hi, are you open for feedback? And if they're not, then okay. But if they are,
you're just gonna show love and care for them until you really have to build a relationship. I believe you really have to build a relationship until they're willing to hear out what you have to say, right?
Yeah, I agree with the relationship part, because I will not take feedback from people who I don't even
exactly
who's not even existing in my world. So it's always important to be careful of that first. If you have a relationship with this person, is this person fragile or anti-fragile? Is this person open to receive or not? And then from there you can say your feedback. And the way we do this in our space is we ask again, are you open? If they are, then we start with what worked with this person or what we appreciate about this person. And then after that, what can this person improve on?
Yeah.
And we're coming and, giving feedback is not because you have the ego to be right or whatsoever, but you're doing it because of love. You love this person. That's why you have the courage to actually say whatever it is that they need at the moment. So
Yeah, agree. And just to sum up everything, in order for you to protect yourself, the things that are taking away your energy, if you don't want to do it, just make it hard for you to not do it, right? And especially with the people that you don't want to spend time with, just if they message you, just you don't have the obligation to reply immediately or at all, right? But if they're consistent on like messaging you or bugging you, communicate. If they still don't respect your boundaries, then that's the time to cut them off. Like, hi, I don't appreciate this relationship anymore. It's not serving me well. So I hope that, you'll be fine with your endeavors. I'm not in that space anymore that my boundaries are not being respected. You really have to communicate, right? So it's not about hurting someone for the sake of hurting them, but rather protecting yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you don't protect yourself, you might be resentful to other people. Like, that's adding more negativity to the world. That's adding more negativity and trauma to other people, right? So, yeah.
Love everything you're saying. And siguro, I just want to add one last thing. I want to share one practice that I do to protect myself. I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with this, but I use Google Calendar, and my friends and the people around me know this, that if it's not on my calendar, it's not gonna happen. And that's one way for me to conserve my energy, protect myself, and to just be aware of who I want to spend time with. So, yeah, for me, I think it's the little things that have the biggest impact. And what I love about what you're sharing is just the authenticity of it, that it's important to be real and honest with yourself and how you're feeling, because you don't want to add more traumas and scars and wounds to the world. So that's what I love about what you shared earlier on. So thank you, Mia.
Yeah. Thank you, Chriselle. And in terms of Google Calendar, for me, if it's not on my calendar, I would forget. From all of the things that we've talked about in this episode about energy vampires, protecting your energy, can you share with us, or can you tell us what is your one word or sentence that you would want to encourage everyone to try today?
One word or sentence that I want to encourage everyone to try today is to be mindful of your energy. That's it.
Yeah, thank you again for guesting on the episode, and I hope to see you on the future episodes. So thank you, Chriselle.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored, and I really enjoyed the conversation we had today.
Same. Likewise. See you on the next episode. Bye.